9:22. Yes.
I did want to make mention of this.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier, and we were talking about some other nonsense. I didn't want this to get all confused in that, but it was reported yesterday, and giving the attention and credit where credit is due. There was this situation in Afghanistan where they said 7 or 8 civilians were killed. Then it turned out that they were CIA agents. One of them has a local connection, and that was Scott Michael Roberson, who went to Sycamore and graduated, I think, in '88. So he had been serving and was a victim of that suicide bomber. Did you see what happened there? That was a double agent issue.
I did see that.
Where they had recruited somebody to go and infiltrate what they thought was an infiltrator of Al-Qaeda, and it turned out to be a sort of a double agent situation. A horrible loss for the CIA and certainly for the family. But again, his sister, I guess, lives in Cuyahoga Falls, northern Ohio, and so just some attention where attention is due for him and his family.
And I did see some of the news reports on this, and the worst
Taliban,
and obviously the CIA. You don't know who. I mean.
Right.
You don't know who they are.
Well,
so really, sadly, It
struck me odd when they said civilians, and I thought, what would civilians be doing at a forward outpost like that? And then it turned out to be what it was. But it was apparently, I think I said Al-Qaeda, Taliban. Sorry to split that hair there. But to his family, we absolutely we wish you our best, and God bless him for his service. And we'll see what happens next. Again, I'm still a fan of making that entire country a parking lot, but then we don't have to waste any more lives over there. But
we'd rather worry about different lists at the airport.
Yeah, I would say, if it ends in Stan, we can do without it.
You've made that claim before.
Yeah.
So I turned to the business page right here just to flip a little bit. I see at the top, 09 bankruptcies up 32%. I like this headline. The little bullet says, "Barrier to creativity. Happiness at work hits lowest recorded." Now, I like the 3 little bullet points in the story. Can I read them, please?
Mm-hmm.
It says, workers have grown steadily more unhappy for a variety of reasons. Here are the reasons listed. Number 1, fewer workers consider their jobs to be interesting. And it is funny. I do know people, and it does seem like, and I think that's just with the general beatdown, but I think maybe one of the reasons why they're less interesting are the bullet points 2 and 3. Number 2, incomes have not kept up with inflation. And, that's, I think, certainly everybody.
I think, you look at 2009, the year of the furlough.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
They're not only are they not keeping up, they're falling behind.
Correct. And number 3, now we can talk about it. The soaring cost of health insurance has eaten into workers' take-home pay. And really, it is kind of funny because I think most people at any company today, most of the health insurance packages that are offered are so similar you're splitting hairs.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to a number of people, but I will tell you, at NKU, we've been fortunate despite it. I don't know what's going to happen with the shakeout of, you see the budget numbers in the state of Kentucky, and education's going to take a hit. But, it is one of those funny things. And, you hear people and they say, just be lucky to have a job. And I'm not naive to the fact that having one is better than not having one. But if you're not making any more money, it's not like the costs of everything around us are staying the same. It's not like somebody's going, well, you know what? You guys didn't get a raise this year, so we'll keep that down. I saw even just a report, if you have Duke Energy over in northern Kentucky, it's going to cost you X% more. And the reality of it is, I'll use just one simple example. I've got 3 boys. Presumably at some point they may want to go to college. Oh, my God. All you have to do is every year, almost, tuition goes up. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's going to cost you $7.38 more a semester. It's thousands of dollars. The cost of education is brutal. It really
coming from the educator side of that, why is that? Why does this number continue to increase? I'm not going to say exponentially, but significantly. Damn sure
it's not going into faculty and staff pockets. I just think because it's like anything else. The cost of doing business at an academic institution, we don't really, when you think about, and we're a state-funded predominantly institution. Now, there's the NKU Foundation. It gets in some private donations, but it's just the ongoing cost. Buildings cost more, heat costs more, everything costs more. Technology, which is great in the classroom, and we're able to use that and do those things. But let's use this. Let's use the communications department. think about the technological advancements that have taken place in this field over the last 3 to 5 years. So if you're teaching students to be prepared to walk into an industry like this, you need to have what? Presumably the latest, fun type equipment.
Hey,
so all of a sudden, what you used to do in newspapers with an X-Acto, now you're doing.
But it's interesting, though. I mean, when I graduated from Miami from the communications department, we were doing everything manually. I mean, we were editing tape with razor blades and doing all that. And then shortly after I got out, they sent out the notice to the alumni to fund a brand new communications building and a lot of that you do get private funding. You get your private funding there, but at the same time, it's not like, well, that was all privately done and now we're not going to raise tuition. I mean, that tuition continues to skyrocket.
Well, and as an example, one of the things that we desperately need at NKU, we need a College of Business building. But you also have to think about, most of that's going to come from private donors. But once you build the building, you got to furnish it. You got to, it's.
All right, let me ask you this then. Why, and I don't understand, and I'm not being a smartass, I don't understand it. Why the huge disparity between how much it costs for an in-state student to go and out-of-state?
I'm going to be honest with you.
It sounds to me like the same sort of tax they want to put on players that come into town to play games or, that kind of thing.
Well, when you think about it, it's not like if you pay, I'm just using round numbers, if you pay 2 or 3 times as much because you live out of state, it's not like you're getting anything different in the class.
That's what I mean. You're getting the same product. And you're paying for housing that you might not have to pay for if you live locally and everything else. Very I don't understand the difference in those.
I think
it's
numbers. I think it's probably, and I don't know this, but now that you asked it, and I don't know, I'm going to find out today so I can appease Brian as well. But I will.
And Brian was right, by the way.
Well, in a way, he was.
Tickets are sold out with regard to.
Hang on, let me finish that question. But the reality of, though, I think this, Ralph. I think by offering lower tuition in-state, you're trying to keep your people in your state that your universities exist to go. You know about Florida. Basically, it's free. If you go to a Florida academic institution, now to Brian.
No, that's because we're paying with $160 one-day tickets to Disney World.
You think? Now, Brian, basically, and I called the Bengals ticket office and talked to somebody, and they still have a very limited number of tickets available. But for all purposes, they've been, and these are tickets that have been turned back. Basically, when the Bengals put them on sale, you can't just buy a single game for Saturday. You had to buy that game plus what would be the AFC Championship game if the Bengals won the divisional championship game and wound up hosting, which is extremely unlikely. They'd have to be playing a wild card team since they're the number 4, even though they're a divisional winner, they're the number 4 seed. I mean, the seeds go Indianapolis, San Diego, New England, and Cincinnati, which is why New England and the Bengals host the 2 wild card teams. But they basically, he said there are very few, but you still can buy. So if you want to be technical, if you can get a ticket, it's sold out yet.
It's in the conventional wisdom.
I can buy a ticket. That means it's not sold out.
You're not weaseling out of this.
The hell I'm not. It's a technicality, and I'm using it.
No, you're not.
So basically, if you want to go Saturday, you still can, which means that
it's sold. No, you said, I don't want any of this nonsense. Kroger buys the rest of the tickets sellout. I want a traditional sellout, and that's what this is.
You just had to have them keep your money for a little while and gain interest on it for a game that's never going to be played here. That's all. So how about that? You like that better?
Yeah, back to your story about the job satisfaction.
Yes.
One of the things they point out in the same story is that they're saying if this trend isn't reversed, economists say it could stifle innovation and hurt America's competitiveness and productivity. That's not what's going to hurt that. Years of exporting all of our jobs and all of our thinkers. This used to be a country of innovators and entrepreneurs, basically inventing almost damn near every modern convenience that we have in just shortly over 200 some years. Okay, from air flight, the automobile, and again, there are people that argue, well, there's this and that, but I'm talking about perfecting them and getting them up for mass commercial purposes. Not anymore. We're the nation. We're the grunts now. We do everybody else's work. We ship everything, all the brains around the world, and allow them to do, the brain drain is on, and then we just grunt work it all out.
There's a good chance I'll grunt later today.
That's the part of it that drives me nuts.
You ever heard hearsay?
Hearsay?
I'm gonna give you a chance.
Somebody told me about them once, but I didn't believe them.
I'm going to give you a chance to catch them in concert
It's
Friday
heresy.
night. You can hear
Ralph.
Hearsay and some other bands
It's
Friday
heresy.
night. Give you details momentarily, but first, can we play a little tune?
That was well done.
Now, can you? Yes, you can.
I have skills.
Sorry, that's skills.
My bad.
I like this tune, too.
Very proud
Then
of you.
okay, then
That's
keep it
important.
on.
And play it then. Play it in its entirety.
Turn
please.
it up.
Please. 96 Rock.